Well, hello and welcome back to another Premier League predictions. This is the penultimate game week of this Premier League season, and it looks like it's coming down to the wire for both the title and the relegation battles. So, let's just jump into it, shall we? Going to start off with the Saturday fixtures and Fulham versus Manchester City. Fulham host Manchester City in the capital as the hosts look to make a return to winning ways. Manchester City come back for another win as they eased past Wolves, with Haaland netting 4 of their 5 goals. This takes their form to 5 wins from 5, and it keeps the title race very competitive as it looks to go to the final day. Very exciting. Fulham are coming from a draw as they fell to Brentford in West London. This takes the Cotter's form to 1 win and 2 draws from their last 5. This keeps them firmly mid-table. We'll be hoping they can break into the top half of the league come end of the season. But I'm going to say 3-0 to City. I am backing City to claim all 3 points in the capital. Unluckily for Fulham, they've not beaten their opponents since 2009 and haven't claimed any points from them since 2012, so it's really not looking good for the Cottagers. And to be honest, I can see that trend continuing here. City have found some form at a very important time for their campaign, as they look to keep the title race competitive, and they're currently doing so. After their demolition of Wolves, the Citizens found themselves just a point behind current league leaders Arsenal, with a game in hand over them. Fulham have struggled to score a lot of goals recently, but have netted in 3 of the last 5 fixtures. Manchester City have been much more prolific in front of net than their opponents though, as they've scored 87 goals compared to Fulham's 51. City also have a far better defence than their opponents as well, as they've only conceded 33 goals to Fulham's 55. So the Citizens have equalled their tally from last season. So slightly worse defence, but still, it's pretty good. And to make things just that little bit worse for Fulham, Haaland has hit form. The Norwegian put 4 past Wolves, and I wouldn't be surprised if he scored another hat-trick here. I'm backing City to take the 3 points in the capital and to keep the title race tight as they look to defend their English crown for the 4th successive season, I believe. Are we the Farmers? And then move on to Everton versus Sheffield United. Everton hosts Sheffield United at Goodison Park as both teams look to make a return to winning ways. Well, winning ways is a bit generous for Sheffield United, but you get where I'm coming from. The Blades have already been relegated and are coming back with a loss as they fell to Nottingham Forest at Bramall Lane. This takes the Blades' form to 5 losses from 5. There's no coming back from it, lads. I mean, you are mathematically relegated, but was it ever in doubt? Everton are coming back with a draw as they share the points with Luton at Kenilworth Road. This takes the Toffees' form to 3 wins and a draw from their last 5. Everton secured their survival a few weeks back, but that hasn't really stopped their performances and they're generally playing quite well. No team really has anything to fight for at this point in the season. Everton are safe, Sheffield United are not, so it's a bit of a dead rubber for both teams. But I'm going to say 2-0 to Everton. I'm backing Everton to keep the 3 points on Merseyside. The Toffees have been enjoying a good run of form recently, and I can see that run extending against the Blades. Sheffield United have not been enjoying a good season themselves, already relegated and have shipped 100 goals so far. Yes, 100 goals. We fucking did it, lads. We put 3 past them. Yes. This unenviable record ties them with Swindon Town for the most goals conceded in a Premier League season. Yes, Swindon Town. And unfortunately for Sheffield United, there are still 2 games of the season to go, so they're probably going to shatter that record. And I'm expecting Everton to add to that tally as well. The Toffees have not been prolific in front of net this season, only scoring 38 goals, which is only a couple more than their opponents, to be honest, who have scored 35. But they have a far superior goal difference, which, when you've conceded 100 goals, isn't really hard. As Everton have only conceded 49 this season, which is less than half of Sheffield United. I'm backing Everton to with 3 points on Merseyside and, further cement their survival. I mean, they can't be relegated now, so there's not really any cementing to be done. Just getting more points on the board, really. And then we move on to West Ham versus Luton Town. West Ham hosts Luton Town in East London as both sides look to make a return to winning ways. Luton Town have come back with a draw as they shared their points with Everton at Goodison Park. This takes the Hatters' form to a win and a draw from their last 5. That point was not enough though, as it kept Luton in the relegation zone, but it did put a stop to a run of 3 successive defeats. So, silver linings in that. West Ham haven't been faring much better recently though, as they were demolished by Chelsea in West London. This takes their form to a win and a draw from the last 5 as well. This bad run of results has seen the Hammers slip from European contention, and they'll need a great run of the green to make it back to a possible European spot come end of the season. And I'm backing them to make a return to winning ways, and I'm going to say 2-1 to West Ham. I'm backing the Hammers to make a return to winning ways. The club have confirmed they're going to be parting company with David Moyes come end of the season, after what's been a pretty poor run of results, to be fair. He's done really well for West Ham in his time there, he can be proud of the work he's done, you know, European football, saving them from relegation, bringing some brilliant talents. He's done a stellar job. And I think it's a harsh sacking, to be honest, but West Ham do need to rejig their squad, their club. So I think sacking Moyes is probably the right option for them. Both teams have been enjoying a similar run of results, and if this match was being played at Kenilworth Road, I would be backing Luton. But in East London, I think West Ham should be the ones to come out on top here. The Hammers have scored 56 goals in the league this season, and that is mostly down to Jared Bowen, who is fit, and we're looking forward to terrorising Luton's leaky back line, as the Hatters have conceded 78 goals this season. Luton have scored 49 goals this season, but kind of a feeling of optimism as they face West Ham, whose defence hasn't been great either, with the Hammers conceding 70 goals so far. West Ham do have the quality needed though to overcome this Luton side, and this is especially a Luton side which has been ravaged by injuries this season. I'm backing West Ham to keep all 3 points in the capital and to further push for a European spot come end of the season. And then move on to Bournemouth versus Brentford. Bournemouth host Brentford on the south coast, as both sides are looking to return to winning ways to close the season on a high. Brentford come back with a draw as they share the points with Fulham in a so-called West London derby. This takes the Bees' form to 2 wins and 2 draws from their last 5, as they've secured safety for another season of Premier League football. Bournemouth come back with a loss as they failed to beat Arsenal at the Emirates. This takes the Traders' form to 2 wins and a draw from their last 5, and it sees them sit slap bang in the middle of the table. If results go Bournemouth's way, then they could record their highest ever Premier League finish. They've already exceeded their points record and could set another club record in the coming weeks. And I'm going to say 2-1 to Bournemouth. I'm backing Bournemouth to gain all 3 points and to continue their progression under Iraola. Both teams have been dealing with their fair share of injuries this season, and both teams are suffering from said injuries too. Bournemouth are currently worse off than their opponents, having more players on the sidelines, but Brentford are also without many of their first team players. Both sides have the same record in front of net this season, despite each team's wildly different campaigns. Bournemouth and Brentford have both scored 52 goals this season. However, Brentford have been better at the back than their opponents though, only conceding 60 goals in comparison to Bournemouth's 63. So, not a massive difference, but still a little bit of a difference there. It's a tough goal between these two sides, and they look pretty similar on paper if I'm honest. But I reckon with the attacking football that Bournemouth play under Iraola, they should be able to perform well against a Brentford side that is missing most of their first choice defenders. I'm backing Bournemouth to keep all 3 points on the south coast and to go further to setting a possible club record again. And then move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Crystal Palace. Wolves host Crystal Palace in the West Midlands as the hosts look to make a return to winning ways. Against Palace though, that is a very tall order. Have you seen them recently? Christ. Crystal Palace are coming back with an emphatic victory as they dominated Manchester United at Selhurst Park. This takes the Eagles' form to 4 wins and a draw from the last 5. This is a massive change in fortunes for the Eagles, who have looked like a completely different team since appointing Glasner. Wolves haven't been enjoying as good of fortunes though, as they failed to beat Manchester City at the Etihad. Shocking, I know. This takes their form to 1 win and a draw from the last 5. It's not been a good run recently for the West Midlands outfit, but they do sit firmly mid-table after admirable performances earlier in the season. However, I'm going to say 3-0 to Palace. I'm backing Palace to take all 3 points back to the capital. It's a stark difference in performances since Glasner has taken charge, and the results speak for themselves. And that is typified in their performance against a very dire Manchester United side on the weekend. They are one of the most informed sides at the moment, and we're aiming to finish the season on a high, and they're very well placed to do so. Wolves and Palace have scored the same amount of goals this season, with both teams netting 49 times. This is even more impressive from Palace, as they've scored 13 times in their last 5 matches. The Eagles have been better in defence as well, as they've conceded 57 goals in comparison to Wolves' 60. So again, it's a 3-goal margin between the two teams, but a better defence is a better defence, and especially when you've scored the same amount of goals, that goal difference can become very important come end of the season. Both teams are also suffering from a few injuries themselves, but Palace are definitely the worst off of the two, with more players expected to be sidelined. Despite those injuries though, Palace have been in some fine form, and I really expect them to continue that run in the West Midlands. There's not really many teams I could see stopping Palace, and Wolves is definitely not one of them. They're in some brilliant form at the moment. Eze, Elise and Mateta are all firing, playing some brilliant football. So yeah, it's not looking great for Wolves. And then move on to Tottenham versus Burnley. Tottenham host Burnley in North London, as both teams look to make a return to winning ways. Burnley come back with a loss, as they were soundly beaten by Newcastle at Turf Moor. This takes the Clarets' form to 1 win and 2 draws from their last 5. It's a decent run of form for a side aiming to avoid relegation, but they do find themselves 5 points from safety, which Not great. Spurs have been enjoying such fortunes though, as they fell to their 4th successive loss of the season, and this time it was by the hands of Liverpool, at Anfield no less. This takes Spurs' form to 1 win from the last 5. Their challenge for Champions League football seems to be over at this point. It was a terrific capitulation from the North London outfit, but they've just fallen away, and as such has their campaign for Champions League football. But despite all that doom and gloom, I'm going to say 2-1 to Tottenham. I can see Spurs making a return to winning ways in North London. Burnley haven't actually been playing that bad recently, as it could make a late bid for survival, and being 5 points from safety, it's very possible they could survive. But that is if results go their way. I don't see results going their way in the capital. Spurs currently find themselves in 5th, 7 points behind Villa with a game in hand, so could claim that final Champions League spot if results do go their way, or also in the driving seat for that guaranteed Europa League spot come end of the season. So either way, they should, keyword should, be getting European football at the end of the season. Tottenham have been very prolific in attack this season, scoring 69 goals so far, but seem to have gone off the boil recently, only scoring 5 in their last 5. Burnley haven't been great in attack all season though, only scoring 39 goals so far. It's the 3rd lowest attack in the league. Spurs have also been much better in defence, conceding 58 goals to Burnley's 74. Bloody hell. I think with the attacking talent that Spurs have at their disposal, they should be beating this Burnley side. But again, that keyword is should, because Son doesn't look like scoring at the moment, and Richarlison ain't much better. You've got Brennan Johnson. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a brilliant player, but he can't be a leading man. Jesus Christ, lads, come on. What do we sell him to you for? And then we move on to Newcastle United versus Brighton. Newcastle United host Brighton and Hove Albion at St James's Park, as both sides are looking to make a run of wins going to end the season on high. Brighton have come back by win as they beat Aston Villa on the coast. This takes their form to 1 win and a draw from the last 5. This was the Seagulls' first league win since early March, which is quite the fall off from the Brighton of last season. Newcastle United also come back by win as they beat Burnley at Turf Moor. This takes their form to 4 wins from their last 5. It's a very impressive run from the Geordies as they aim to finish a European spot come end of the season, and they're one of the best placed teams to do so, only 4 points behind 5th place Spurs. And I'm going to say 3-1 to Newcastle. I'm backing Newcastle to win this clash in the North East. Brighton haven't been having the best time of things recently, dropping points in fixtures, so they should have been winning, but they've also had a season that has been swamped by injuries to some of their most important players. Newcastle did go through a slump form of their own, and have also been contending with a lot of injuries too, but they've recently seen a recent uptick in form, and that's seen them surge up the table and are knocking the door of European football once more. Brighton not being the attacking side they were under De Zerbi last season, and as such only scored 53 goals this season. Newcastle have been much better in front of net this season though, as they've scored 78 goals so far. That is the 4th best attack in the league. Both teams have also been very similar in defence. Brighton have conceded 57 goals, whereas Newcastle have conceded 56. I think Newcastle's powerful attacking force and playing in front of the St James's faithful will help the Geordies over the line here. That and the fact that Brighton just haven't been great recently. I'm backing Newcastle to get 3 points in the North East and further challenge for Europe. And then we move on to Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. Nottingham Forest host Chelsea at the City Ground as each side looking to build on their wins and get a winning streak going to end the season on a high. Chelsea looked to have finally awoken as the Blues have marched up the table, and that was furthered by Chelsea's win over West Ham. This takes Chelsea's form to 3 wins and a draw from their last 5. They're in contention for European football come end of the season, and they look to have mostly shed their inconsistency from early in the season, so if they can get it, they clearly deserve it. Nottingham Forest also come back for a win as they beat relegated Sheffield United for a huge 3 points. It was a big result for Forest that took their form to 1 win and a draw from their last 5. Well, it's not great form, but that long-awaited win will have filled Forest with a renewed sense of confidence in their battle for survival, and at a very vital point as well. I'm going to say 2-2. I'm backing the points to be shared in the East Midlands. It may be a rogue shout given the form that Chelsea are in at the moment and some of the players they have at their disposal, but at the City Ground, with survival on the line, Forest will be a formidable side to face. However, that all depends on which Forest side will show up. Please guys, Nuno, you do a back 3, we fucking cooking, okay? I know you're listening, mate. I know you're a big fan of the channel. Back 3, you hear me? Chelsea have been playing well recently, keeping back-to-back clean sheets in their last successive wins, and looking far more competitive at this point in the season as they hunt for European football. The Blues have been very effective in front of net this season as they've scored 70 goals so far, which makes them the 6th best attacking side this season. Forest, by comparison, have only scored 45 goals this season, so not one of the best attacking outfits. Not great. Chelsea have also been a better defensive outfit this season as well, though not much better. They've conceded 59 goals compared to Forest's 63. Given all that though, I can see the points being shared at the City Ground. Forest have frustrated Chelsea in recent matches, and I can see that continuing here. I just think Chelsea always have the potential to bottle it, no matter what point a match it's in. They have that potential, and I think Forest should be able to exploit that. And then move on to the Sunday fixture of Manchester United versus Arsenal. Man United host Arsenal at Old Trafford as the Red Devils look to make a return to winning ways. Arsenal are flying high as they come back with a win, beating Bournemouth at the Emirates. This takes their form to 4 wins from their last 5 and sees the Gunners remain at the top of the league. Manchester United have not been enjoying as good fortunes though. The Reds come back with a loss as they were dominated by Crystal Palace in South London. This takes their form to 1 win and 3 draws from their last 5 and has seen them slip from European contention as the wheels have well and truly fallen off the bold man's wild ride. I'm going to say 3-0 to Arsenal. I'm backing Arsenal to take all 3 points back to the capital, and honestly, this could be a conservative estimate. Manchester United have not been great recently, as their recent form has taken a big dip, and this has been compounded by their injury woes, which have really piled up recently. United have dropped points against teams that they really should have been beating, and that was seen in their woeful campaign against Palace. I think a lot of that was down to the absence of club captain Bruno Fernandes, who could also miss this clash as well. He really is a catalyst for this Man United side, no matter how much you may dislike him, myself included. He is very, very important for this United side, and without him, they look like shit. I mean, they look like shit anyway, but even worse, if you could imagine that. Arsenal are in a brilliant run of form, and as such, they find themselves at the top of the league. 1 point ahead of United's arch-rivals Manchester City, but City do have a game in hand. Arsenal will be looking for maximum points from the last 2 fixtures if they want to even be in contention for winning the title, and just have the City slip up somewhere. They've got no new injury worries, so Arteta will be able to start his strongest 11 in this fixture, and that's good as Arsenal boast the best attack in the league, as they've scored 88 goals so far. They also have the best defensive record, only conceding 28 times this season. Manchester United haven't been brilliant in attack or defence. The Reds have scored 52 goals this season, but have conceded 59 as well. Arsenal will be licking their lips at this. They are one of the best sides this season, and are back to continue their good performances against the struggling Manchester United side. Backing Arsenal claim all 3 points in the capital, and to give another reason for United to sack Ten Hag come end of the season, which they're probably going to do anyway. Let's be real. And then move on to the Monday fixture, and Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Aston Villa host Liverpool at Villa Park as the villains are looking to make a return to winning ways. Liverpool will come back with a win as they beat Tottenham at Anfield. This takes their form to 2 wins and a draw from their last 5, but it was a very important win for the Reds as it kept them mathematically in the title race, but do find themselves 4 points adrift of City. Aston Villa come back with a loss as they fell to Brighton on the coast. This loss takes their form to 2 wins and 2 draws from the last 5. Despite dropping quite a few points recently, the villains do find themselves in the driving seat for that final Champions League spot come into the season, so it's a very important clash for both sides' season hopes. I'm going to say 3-2 to Liverpool. I'm backing Liverpool to claim all 3 points in Birmingham and to keep themselves in the title race, but it's going to be a very tough affair. Aston Villa are leading the race for that final top 4 spot, as I mentioned. They are 7 points clear of Spurs, but Tottenham do have a game in hand over the villains. I can see this game piling a bit more pressure on Villa coming to that final day as they want to secure Champions League football. Both teams have been great attacking sides this season, with Liverpool boasting the 3rd best attack in the league, whilst Villa have the 5th. Liverpool have scored 81 goals this season, but have struggled recently as Salah has gone missing, quite frankly. He's not been doing much, if anything. But I've taken him out of my FPL team now, so Liverpool fans, you're welcome. He's going to find the net a lot more now. But this great attack is also complemented by them having the 3rd best defence in the league as well, only exceeding 38 goals. Villa have scored 73 goals this season, but have not been as good in defence though, as they've conceded 53 goals. Liverpool do have a lot of attacking talent at their disposal, and have seen a lot of players return from injury recently. So that, amongst other things, I'm backing Liverpool to claim all 3 points in Birmingham and to keep themselves in the title race, however unlikely it is that they'll win it. And then move on to the Tuesday fixture of Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester City. Tottenham hosts Man City after both sides have played at the weekend. We don't know what form each side will be in coming into this fixture, but City are definitely doing better than their opponents at this time of writing. Currently, they're coming back a win as they beat Wolves to keep themselves in the title race. Spurs are not really enjoying a great run of things though, as they're coming back with a loss against Liverpool. Spurs are battling Villa for that final Champions League spot, and this game will be very important for those Champions League hopes. But I'm going to say 2-0 to City. I'm backing City to claim all 3 points in North London. Tottenham have been quite the bogey side for Manchester City in recent seasons, but I can't see them beating them this time around. Manchester City are fighting hard to retain their Premier League crown for another successive season, and I can't see much stopping them taking it to the final day. If City win this clash against Spurs, as well as beating Fulham at the weekend, they'll find themselves top of the league. I think 2 points ahead of Arsenal, level on matches played. This is a vital match for both sides. Spurs for the Champions League hopes, and City for the title hopes. Ultimately, I do see City running out victories in North London though. Arsenal's title hopes rest in the hands of their arch rivals. This should be a tasty one. And then we move on to the Wednesday fixtures and Brighton versus Chelsea. Brighton hosts Chelsea at the Amex as both teams have their weekend fixtures. Much like Spurs and City, we won't know what form each side will be on coming to this clash. Currently though, Chelsea are enjoying a much better run of things though, have broken into top half of the league after a good run of form. Brighton haven't been enjoying as good a form though, as they've replaced Chelsea in the middle of the table. I'm going to say 3-1 to Chelsea. I'm backing Chelsea to claim all 3 points on the coast. These teams have shared some very interesting history in recent seasons, with Chelsea nabbing their best players and even a manager from Brighton. But both have experienced different levels of success after that. Brighton have been experiencing a slump in form recently and don't look like the attacking side they have been under De Zerbi. This is definitely influenced by the many injuries they've been experiencing and the important players that have been absent. Chelsea haven't exactly been blessed by injuries either, as they've also had to contend with many players missing out through injury. The players they do have available though are cooking. I'm making Chelsea claim all 3 points on the coast and further their hopes of European football. And finally, Manchester United versus Newcastle United. Man United hosts Newcastle United at Old Trafford after both sides have played at the weekend. Once again, we do not know what state and what form these two sides will be in coming this fixture. Both sides are battling out for a European spot come end of the season, and currently Newcastle are in the driving seat. The Magpies have enjoyed a resurgence in form as of late, whilst their opponents have been much the opposite. It's not stonks for United. I'm going to say 2-1 to Newcastle. I'm backing Newcastle to take their 3 points back to the northeast. Both teams have been dealing with quite a lot of injuries this season, but fortunes have changed for Newcastle as they look to finally be at the tail end of their injury crisis. Many players have begun to make their returns, which is better late than never, I guess. Manchester United have been much the opposite though, as their injuries have only piled up recently. Newcastle have been scoring a lot of goals recently, and against the, shall we say, interesting Man United defence, willing to increase that tally in Old Trafford. I'm backing Newcastle United to claim all 3 points and pile further misery on that Manchester United outfit to once again cement their choice of sacking the bold fraud that is Ten Hag. But yeah, those have been my Premier League predictions for the penultimate game week of the Premier League. I do hope you enjoy. I've been O2GT. Leave any predictions you may have in the comments down below. And yeah, I hope your team wins its fixtures, gets points on the board, unless you support Burnley, Luton, or Chelsea. But yeah, I shall see you guys in the next one. Peace.